Lindsay from Lindsay's Dog Training, and this is Zeke, my 2.5-year-old Doberman, who you may have seen in a video or two before. Today, we are going to teach your dog to sit on command. So the first thing I want to remind you guys about sit and any other command is not to repeat commands. So if you tell them to do a command, whether it be sit or look or down or stay or come, whatever command you're going over, you should never repeat commands. We talked about this in another video before, but I feel the need to remind you because people tend to forget and repeat stuff over and over again. So if you are going to teach them a command, you need to first know how to follow through and make it happen. So for the sit command, for example, if your dog does not sit, you're going to need a treat. Stand up. And then the trick to get them to sit is not pushing their butt down, because then they fight against you. That's the worst thing that you can do. He knows sit, so this is going to be a struggle to not get him to sit. But, alright, just trust me. Pushing their butt down is a bad idea. Dogs tend to fight against resistance. That's why they pull on the leash. That's why if you try to push them into a down, they fight against you. You try to push them into a sit, they fight against you. So it's really not a good idea to force them into place. But if you use the treat, okay, to guide the treat up over their head, good, then their butt should hit the ground. Now, with a dog that does not know sit, it's going to be way more complicated than with Zeke here, who does know how to sit. So, you gonna get up? The idea is to first make sure that you can get them to do the behavior, if it's something that you're luring them with a treat for. So, if you can get them to follow the treat backwards, or get up so you can try it again. Zeke, are you gonna cooperate? No. Good boy. Then you can add the command. Sit. Good. So you shouldn't say it as you're guiding them, no matter what you're doing, because then they don't separate the visual from the verbal, and you need them to be able to do it either way. So it's important to say the command first and then follow with a visual cue. Now, the visual cue tends to always turn into a hand signal of a sort. So like I do pointing. So he knows if I point, that means for him to sit. Some people lift their hand up in the air, and that will cause them to sit. The reason that those work is because this motion is very similar to pointing. It's very similar to lifting your hand up. So it kind of transforms into your hand signal. But the main idea behind getting your dog to sit is to take the treat right at their nose, and he's sitting too fast for me to really show you, but if you hold it up too high, what you're going to have is a problem most of the time with small dogs, but you can have it with bigger dogs also. If you hold it up too high, they tend to jump up for the treat, and then they may sit, but they may jump up to get the treat afterwards, which is not the right thing to do. So you want to make sure that you hold the treat right at their nose when you're first luring them backwards, and you don't want to do it too fast either. So if your dog does not know how to sit, they're going to be very slow to follow the treat backwards. So just take your time with it and make sure you keep it right at their nose, but don't let them take it out of your hand. Get out. He's bored with me. If you hold it too far away, they may try to snap at your fingers, or they may jump up and try to swipe it out of your hand. If you keep it closed in your fist, they have a harder time trying to get it out, but they will still follow it. So you can close your fist up with the treat inside if you do have trouble with them trying to take it out of your hand or biting your fingers. When they do sit or complete whatever task you're asking them to do, you need to praise them. So praise is actually more important than the treat. You do need treats for most things if you're doing it my way. But if you ask a dog to sit and then you do not tell them good or yes or whatever your praise word is for when they complete the action, they're not technically sure what they're getting rewarded for. Now, for the sit, if they stay sitting long enough to get the treat in their mouth while they're still sitting, then yes, they'll get the idea. But certain commands, like the eye contact command, and other things, they may be a little confused on what they're getting the reward for. So it is important to let them know exactly when they did the behavior correctly by telling them. So using your praise word. Come here. Come here. Sit. Good. The treat can be like a second later if it has to be. The most important part is praise right when they do it. Sit. Good. If you have a small dog, some big dogs, but most of the time it's like a Chihuahua, for example, they sometimes will not sit on the tile or cold floor. So you can actually put a bed underneath them or a blanket or a towel and they'll sit immediately. Like I've seen a lot of dogs struggle with the sit over the years, and you know, usually it's a small dog because they just don't want to sit on the cold floor. I'm sure it's cold on their butt, but I'm not sure what the difference is between a big dog and a small dog and the reasons why. But if you are struggling getting a small dog to sit, it's typically best to put a bed or a blanket underneath them so that they're comfortable and their butt is warm, so that they'll be more likely to sit. A lot of times you can wean them off of that, but that's the easiest way to get them to sit if they're struggling with it. So, in order to get your dog to sit, first of all, you need a treat, obviously. You may need a bed or a towel or a blanket. You may need a wall. If they are backing up and you don't have a wall, you can use the leash. So if they keep backing up, you can just kind of hold the leash. Make sure that the treat is good enough where they actually want it, because if they don't want it, they're not going to follow it backwards. So it needs to be a high value treat, and treats need to be teeny tiny. I told you guys this in another video also, and I know you can't see this, but this is about, I don't know, it can be like the size of a pencil eraser, and that's big enough. It can even be smaller than that. If you can break it up into the smallest pieces that you can break it up in, if they can taste it, it's big enough. So if they can taste it and it's tasty enough for them to work for it, they'll work for it. Doesn't matter if it's a big piece of a treat or a small piece of a treat, but big piece of treats take longer to eat, they fill up, they get bored with them fast. So try to limit the amount of treats and break them up into teeny tiny pieces. So today, hopefully you were able to teach your dog sit, and I will see you next time. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and you gonna say bye, Zeke? See you next time.